Mirror chocolate cake with strawberry jelly and white chocolate mousse is a cake with different layers and a delicacy for chocolate lovers. Filled with white chocolate mousse, strawberry jelly and a layer of chocolate cake on the inside, this cake is best for birthdays and special occasions. Cooking Company will take you one step at a time into creating this mouth-watering cake. First, we add our strawberries, 300 grams, 20 grams of sugar, 50 millilitres of water to a pan, and we'll let that bubble away. You can use frozen strawberries or fresh strawberries, whatever takes your fancy. We'll pour that mixture into a bowl once it's nicely softened. We're going to blend it together so it is smooth. Then we can add our gelatin, 12 grams of that. Give it a stir till it's very well mixed together. Then we pour it into our container and freeze it for around 30 minutes. Meanwhile, we'll make our chocolate cake. That's cake mixture, 3 eggs, oil, some milk, and we're going to whisk it all together. You can use ready-made cake mixture from the shop or make your own with a bit of self-raising flour, baking soda and cocoa powder. Now we're going to lightly spray our cake tin with oil and add wax paper on the bottom to stop it from sticking. Then we add our chocolate cake mixture. Now this is going to bake in the oven at 180 degrees for around 30 minutes. While that is cooking away, we make our white chocolate mousse. That's 4 egg yolks and 120 grams of sugar. Blend it up. Next, we're going to add some corn flour. This is what's going to thicken it later on when we bubble away on the stove. And we can add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract to give it a lovely flavour. And then we add 500 millilitres of milk to a pan. We heat that a little bit and add that to the rest of the mixture. Once that's all mixed together, we are 2/3 of the way towards white chocolate mousse. Nice and smooth, we're going to add the whole mixture back to our cooking pot. Now here comes the time-consuming part. We have to whisk away for quite a while until the texture thickens up and becomes a mousse-like texture. Nice and thick and gloopy. At that point, we can take it off the pan. We're going to add melted white chocolate, 150 grams. If you want to be interesting, you could even add some food colouring. Why not? 12 grams of gelatin to that as well. And whisk it up till it's very, very well mixed and smooth. Now we're going to add 500 millilitres of whipping cream and whisk it till it's very thick and gloopy. And we'll add the rest of our mixture to the whipping cream. Once that has been stirred, so you see there's a lot of stirring involved in this part of the process, but look, we have this absolutely delicious white chocolate mousse. We can stick it in a food bag or a piping bag, a food bag where you can just cut the end off to make a nozzle. You can squirt it into your baking tin so that it's ready to put your frozen strawberry jelly on top. Now we're going to use a piping bag to squirt around the edges of the jelly and over the top. Take your time with this and be very generous with your helping of white chocolate mousse. We love a bit of white chocolate mousse. We're going to just smooth over the top with a spatula because we want to now add our chocolate cake. Just final touches and voila, there we go. We freeze that for 30 minutes. Meanwhile, we're going to make our topping. Sugar, cocoa powder, sweetened condensed milk. Now we add 100 millilitres of water to the cooking pot and stir it as it's heating, making sure it's nice and smooth. Now we might have a few lumpy bits of cocoa powder in the bottom, so we're going to pour it through a sieve onto a bowl of chocolate buttons. We've used dark chocolate. It gives it a lovely dark brown colour. We're going to blend this up till it's absolutely smooth. Look at that lovely shiny mixture. This is our chocolate glaze. That glaze then gets poured over the rest of our cake. We recommend that you put your cake on a stand high up over a baking tray. That's because obviously as we pour the chocolate glaze, it's going to drip. So we're going to just smooth out the bottom and get rid of all those dripping pieces. Next, we're going to get some broken up chocolate and we're going to just splodge it on there around the edges, alongside the bottom. Very nice finishing touch, and of course it hides any dripping chocolate glaze. Now we can add a special touch with a few strawberries on top, halved with the leaves still on. We like a bit of green and red colour on our dark chocolate cake. Delicious, look at that. chocolate glazing makes this cake look amazing.
Okay, let's have a go at raspberry chocolate mousse cake. Tip 250 grams of chocolate cake mix into a large bowl. Add 3 eggs, 30 milliliters of oil, 50 milliliters of milk, and blend together, either by hand or with an electric whisk like this one. It makes the job much easier. Pour your mixture into a greased and lined cake tin. It should be thick and goopy like ours. Smooth out the surface with a spatula. Then bake at 180 degrees for half an hour. Meanwhile, pour 500 milliliters of whipping cream into a bowl and whisk for several minutes. Then add 50 grams of icing sugar and mix that through too. Place to one side. Melt 300 grams of dark chocolate, then add your whipped cream in, whisking the mixture together spoonful by spoonful. Then portion it into a plastic piping bag like this. Take your chocolate cake and use a circle tin to cut out 2 circular shapes from it. Remove the excess. Cover the shape with a plastic mould of the same size and add a layer of fresh raspberries on top. Then pipe your chocolate mousse all over the fruit, making sure to completely cover it. Then use a spoon to carefully smooth out the surface of your mousse. Refrigerate for 30 minutes. Then it's time to decorate the top with shredded chocolate. And of course, some more fresh raspberries. For a final detail, let's add some gold leaf. Perfect! Now you can sit back and enjoy a delicious treat. If you like coffee as much as you like cake, this is the recipe for you. Place a glass bowl over a pan of hot water and whisk together 3 eggs and 100 grams of sugar. Remove from the heat and then whisk further. Add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 10 grams of honey and whisk these into the mixture too. Now sift in 100 grams of cake flour and 10 grams of cocoa powder, getting rid of all the lumps. Mix everything together by hand with a whisk. When combined, add 50 milliliters of milk. Stir that through, and then add 30 grams of melted butter. Now pour your mixture into a lined baking tin. Then it's time to bake at 170 degrees for 30 minutes. While it cooks, put a glass bowl over hot water and combine 2 egg yolks with 30 grams of sugar. Whisk together. Then add 4 sheets of gelatin and combine it all. Put 200 grams of mascarpone cheese into the mix. Pour in 150 milliliters of whipping cream and thoroughly whisk that through as well. Now put a layer of chocolate cake into a baking tin and pour your mixture over it. Smooth out the mixture with a knife and refrigerate for 20 minutes. Next, dip a ladyfinger into some coffee. Let it soak up, and then it's time to lay out a lot of these fingers on top of your mascarpone layer. There we go. When it's covered, you can pour over the rest of your mascarpone mousse on top. Then add a second layer of cake. And now it's time to refrigerate for 2 more hours. Remove from the fridge and place a shape of baking paper on top. Then gently dust the top of the cake with cocoa powder for extra presentation points. Remove the paper carefully. Then pipe chocolate ganache over the side without the chocolate powder. Let it dribble all over the sides of the cake. When you're finished, you can cover the seam of ganache with coffee beans in a little trail like this one. This will help to hide any tiny mistakes. And there we are. Now that you're done, as always, it's time to take a slice for yourself and enjoy the tasty results of all your hard work. Chocolate! My favourite! Let's decorate some cakes. Start with 200 millilitres of heavy cream, then 100 millilitres of milk in a pan. Get the heat going and whisk the cream and the milk together until they're bubbling. Pour this mixture over 400 grams of chocolate chips. Then use a whisk to melt the chocolate into the cream mixture. Add 50 grams of butter and combine. Now take a chocolate cake and spread a thick layer of your buttercream on top. Flatten it with a knife, then repeat this step a further 3 times to make a 4-tiered cake. Scrape off the excess buttercream using a large knife and use a piping bag to spread the rest of it around the sides of your cake, like so, flattening it with a knife to make a nice, smooth surface. It gives all your cakes that lovely professional touch. Now pipe over a thick drizzle of chocolate ganache, starting from the edges to create the drops on the side and moving inwards. If you have a rotating cake stand you can use, it makes this job much easier. Once you've covered it, use your knife to even out the top. Now just decorate with a few chocolate glazed donuts, perhaps some Ferrero Rocher, perhaps some chocolate balls, and your favourite chocolate bars. The ganache is really easy to stick things to. Wow, this is going to be sweet! Now it's just time to cut out a huge slice and enjoy all your hard work. Delicious. For the next idea, cut out a circle from a chocolate cake slice. Then take another slice and spread over the buttercream that you made in the previous recipe. Use plenty to cover the whole top side. Then smooth it around the sides. Place the ring that you cut out on top. Cover with more buttercream, then repeat this step. Now it's time to pour ganache into the centre of your rings. Use plenty so that it pours all the way to the top. Then add a final layer of chocolate sponge before coating the whole thing in a thick layer of buttercream. Smooth out as before. Once it's smoothed, grate some milk chocolate across the entire top side of the cake. When it's covered, make more shavings and push them softly into the side of the cake. Use your remaining ganache in a piping bag to make little mounds. You can then push Ferrero Rocher into them. Use what's left to make more mounds around the edge of your cake. Wow! Finally, grab a large, sharp knife, cut into the cake, and watch the chocolate flow out. Probably a good idea to serve this cake on a very large plate so that you can keep all the sauce. Super tasty! Today we're making an incredible chessboard sponge cake. Crack 6 eggs into a bowl. Then pour over 500 grams of plain cake mix and whisk well. Add 100 milliliters of milk and whisk that in. Pour in 60 milliliters of oil and combine that with the rest of your ingredients. When mixed, set your mixture aside. Now mix 20 grams of cocoa powder and 60 milliliters of hot water, stirring to make a chocolate sauce. Pour half your cake mixture into a bowl. Then add your chocolate sauce, stirring together to create a chocolate-flavoured cake mix. Pour this mix into a cake tin. Then pour your other mix into an identical tin. And bake both together for 30 minutes at 180 degrees. Meanwhile, heat 200 milliliters of heavy cream. Add 10 grams of loose leaf Earl Grey tea. Stir really well and continue to heat through. Melt 200 grams of dark chocolate and pour in your tea-flavoured cream through a sieve. This will remove the tea leaves and any lumps, but keep the flavour. Use a spoon to push it through. Then, whisk the contents of the bowl to create a thick chocolate mix. Pour 200 milliliters of whipping cream into a bowl and add 10 grams of icing sugar. Whisk them together. Lay out the two halves of your cake and trim them, first with a large circular mould to remove the crusts. Then with a smaller one to create a ring shape, and then an even smaller one. There we go. Remove the crusts from your cakes, then remove the sections of your cake like this, and swap the colours around to create this bullseye-like shape. Plate up one of these cake sections and pour over some chocolate ganache. Smooth it out with a knife. Then add the other layer on top and spread ganache over that. Repeat a few times, alternating your layers, and top with whipped cream. Smooth off your cake, and then you can smooth the sides down with whipped cream as well. Pour more chocolate ganache over the top of the cake, enough to cover the flat surface, and then slightly dribble down the sides. You might need to help it with a flat knife, like this. Then pipe some whipped cream around the top, and plant some macaroons into the gaps to create a really fun design. Super classy! This is a really great looking cake. And when you cut it open, it's a really cool surprise. Okay, let's make a classic chocolate fudge cake. Combine 70 grams of melted chocolate and 70 grams of melted butter in a bowl and whisk them together well. Then add 10 grams of cocoa powder. Whisk it in. 50 milliliters of milk. Whisk it in. 20 grams of sugar and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Whisk them in. 2 egg yolks, and you guessed it, whisk those in. Now, sieve 50 grams of cake flour into your mixture. Keep tapping the sieve to remove the larger chunks of flour. When that's done, you can gently whisk everything together. Now whisk 2 egg whites in a bowl. Continuing to whisk, add 40 grams of sugar. This will create a soft and fluffy mixture. Spoon this mixture into your chocolate bowl, mixing each spoonful as you go. Now fill a small cake tin with your mixture, smoothing out the top, and then bake for 40 minutes at 150 degrees. Melt 120 grams of dark chocolate, pour over 80 milliliters of heavy cream, and stir the two together to create a chocolate ganache. Then, once the cake is baked, pour the ganache over the whole top side of the cake so that it spills over the side. Coat the top and the sides completely. Take your time to make sure you fill any gaps and fully cover the cake. When it's fully coated, it's time to decorate. Decorate with sliced strawberries. Fresh blueberries. And a few sprigs of fresh mint. Time to serve up a slab of your cake and enjoy it with your favourite people. This is a great treat that everyone's going to enjoy. How about we make some rainbow chocolate bars? Put a glass bowl over some hot water. Then tip in 500 grams of white chocolate and 400 grams of sweetened condensed milk. Gently whisk them together and let them melt. Divide the mixture into 7 bowls and use food colouring to create a rainbow. Pour the red chocolate into a baking tray. Smooth out the surface, removing any bubbles. Then pour in the orange chocolate mixture. Smooth out the surface again. And repeat the process with yellow, green, blue, purple, and pink layers of chocolate. Cover the surface with colourful sugar sprinkles. Then refrigerate the whole thing for 1 hour. Once it comes out of the fridge, use a sharp knife to cut the chocolate into cubes. You can then serve it up as a colourful and tasty snack for your favourite people. Look at this delicious chocolate custard cake, and here's how you can make your own. Tip 250 grams of chocolate cake mix into a large bowl. Add 3 eggs, 30 milliliters of oil, 50 milliliters of milk, and blend together, either by hand or with an electric whisk like this. Much easier. Pour the mixture into a greased and lined cake tin. It should be thick and goopy like ours. Tap out the bubbles, and then bake at 180 degrees for half an hour. While it bakes, mix 30 grams of corn flour and 200 grams of sugar together in a pan, then add 200 milliliters of milk and 3 egg yolks, and whisk together over a low heat. Your mixture will start to thicken like this, while you continue to whisk. Then add 20 grams of butter and melt it in. Add 10 grams of gelatin to the mixture to complete the custard. Once your cake is baked, pour over your custard. Use a knife to smooth it across the whole top surface of the cake. Refrigerate for 2 hours. Carefully take the cake from the tin and use a large knife to cut the cake into strips. Easy does it. Then you can set them onto a cooling tray. And it's time to pour over some melted chocolate. Once all the strips are covered, put your cakes back into the fridge to chill for a while. Meanwhile, pour 250 millilitres of whipping cream into a bowl, add 20 grams of chocolate powder and blend them together really well to make chocolate mousse. You can then pipe it delicately onto your cakes, creating really cool drop shapes like these. If you're feeling really fancy, add in some gold leaf for extra presentation points. Then, finally, you can grab a fork and enjoy.